Goedendag. Hoe heet je? Are you understanding me? English, English, English. This is the English class. Okay, English, sorry. Hi there, how are you? Hope you're all doing good. Um, it's week 3, interpersonal communication. And I was being a little hokey. I was speaking Dutch, but the point of me speaking Dutch was we're going to look at language this week. Now, not necessarily foreign languages, although that's certainly a part of it, but we're going to look at how we put words together to convey messages and the whole process around language. So the words all mean things, right? But the words are just symbols. They aren't actually the things themselves, and we constantly change what words mean, or we add more meanings to words. It's actually crazy the number of meanings some words have. The simple word set, set, for example, has, I forget now how many, it's pages and pages of definitions for that particular word. And we have tons of words that work like that. We have words that are verbs and nouns, and depending on how they're used, it changes what the meaning of the word is. So language can be extremely difficult, and that's just within one language. You know, if we're all, say, English speakers. When you go to another language, like I was speaking Dutch at the beginning of this, I actually do speak Dutch. Dutch works very differently than English. And the process of finding the meaning comes in different order. The words come in different orders. You know, English has a very set pattern that we follow. The syntax is what it's called. And in other languages, the syntax is different, and it makes understanding the meaning sometimes difficult. For me, actually, I've been speaking English my whole life. I've only been speaking Dutch a couple of years, and there are a lot of times that it's easier to understand the meaning in Dutch than in English because it's so complicated how we put the words together. So we're going to look at things like how do the words convey the meaning, and how do we use them to convey the meaning, but also things like what's the underlying usage of the words. We will at times use words very intentionally to get people motivated or to get people feeling a certain way. You know, words themselves are not neutral, and certain words have more positivity or negativity than other words that have roughly the same meaning. And many times we will pick certain words because we're using the language to convey emotion, and we're trying to get that kind of emotion into whoever's listening to us speak. So language is an incredibly powerful part of communication. There are whole classes about just the language in communication, and I don't mean English, French, Spanish. Studying how we use language, classes about that. And what's really crazy is words are only 7% of our overall communication. 93% of our communication is the other thing that we're going to look at in this week, and that's nonverbal communication. You know, we have this word channel that we rely on to communicate with, but there is so much more done in nonverbal. 93% of our communication is nonverbal, and most of the time when the nonverbal and the verbal don't mesh up and say the same thing, we believe the nonverbal over the verbal. So that tells you how strong nonverbal communication can be. And there's a lot of nonverbal channels. There's 10 nonverbal channels that we use, and it's things we don't normally think of. What you get up and wear in the morning and what you put on conveys messages to other people. How we decorate our house, how we do our hair, how close we stand to somebody, and how we use gestures and the way we move and the way we use our facial expressions and eye contact. All of these things convey messages to other people. And that's what we're going to study this week. And to me, that's such a short period of time. Nonverbal communication was a full semester class when I went to undergrad school. And there was actually a second one. You could take nonverbal, and there was a nonverbal part 2, basically. And it was just fascinating, all the things that we can do just with nonverbal communication. So we're going to look at those 2 chapters this week. you've got your normal kinds of assignments. You've got the chapter quizzes, the discussion boards, where you're going to talk about these concepts. You're also need to continue working on that I am perception assignment. Step 3 is coming up for week 3, and then you're going to turn it in week 4. So it's coming up to closure on that particular one, but it's a pretty busy week, even though it might not seem like it. There's an awful lot of material. Language and nonverbal together is an awful lot of information. In my face-to-face classes, I spend almost 2 weeks on nonverbal by itself because there's so much there. And then I spend almost a full week also on language. So we're going to do all that in 1 week this week. I do want to talk a little bit about, in week 1 and week 2, I did live sessions. Week 1, I just talked a little bit about the communication model and how communication worked. And in this week's, I'm recording this on Friday afternoon of week 2. So the live session I did Tuesday was about interpersonal perception and how we perceive things and how we assume other people perceive things the same way. It's a very interesting conversation. No students came to the live session either week. And I just went back right before I started recording this and looked to see, because I can see who watches, how long they watch, when they watch, all that kind of stuff. And there are 16 students in this class, and only 2 have utilized the live sessions at all. So I'm now rethinking how I want to proceed going forward, because there's a lot of prep work and then actual recording time and then post-recording stuff that has to be done in order to get those in those classes. And I'm evaluating the time. Is it worth everything that's put into them for the little amount of actual viewing that happens as a result of it? And then I also did a whole bunch of quick tips this week, and I tried to make them interesting and I tried to make them funny, but also with some value in them. And I also looked at those, and they're getting 2, maybe 3 views each as of Friday afternoon, and that's all of week 1's and week 2's quick tips. So I'm also rethinking about what to do there. They are not required, of course. They are additional information, but the goal was to give you some interaction with the instructor, to give you a little bit more knowledge on the topics and the benefit of actually having some interaction, even though it's video. It's not just reading the text. Sometimes it's very hard to understand from the text, and you see it even in a video like this, and you're like, oh, I get it now. I totally get it. And that's what the goal was for providing these, and I need to look at whether or not we're really getting a lot out of it or not. I haven't gotten any feedback from any students on them either, so I'm kind of questioning whether or not we want to do it. The online college itself has us do only 1 live session per semester, and that's in week 1. And so that one's a required one, but I don't know that it's achieving its goal, because the goal was to get students some time to interact with the professor and, get a feel for them and feel more like it's really not teaching yourself, but having someone there to guide you and help you and be there when you need it. And I don't know that we're achieving that. So I'm going to, over the weekend, continue to monitor and see if anybody else watches the live sessions or the quick tips and all of that. And then I'll make a decision on Monday about whether I want to continue doing it or not. Since there are a couple of students who are watching the live sessions, I'm leaning towards going ahead and doing them. I may shorten them quite a bit, and I may not do as many quick tips. I think I did like 7 or 8 this week. But that is there. I'm reevaluating it. I will tell you that I'm also teaching a public speaking class online, and I've had no interaction. I had 1 student attend 1 live session, and nobody attended the second one, and nobody's looked at the quick tips, and I've discontinued that for the other class. So I'm looking at what I'm going to do here as well. The other things I wanted to highlight on, I really liked the videos you guys did for week 1, where you were talking about yourselves and introducing yourselves. That was really nice. This is my first semester teaching 102 as an online course. I've been teaching it face-to-face for years and years and years. and I wanted to teach it underneath. This is a brand new course design as well, and it was really nice to see that. I was encouraged by that, and it gave me some ideas. So in some instances, in grading, I probably will do a video back to you, and rather than just type comments. But I did want to say, please go back and look at all your graded assignments. I am putting comments in the rating rubrics. I also put comments at the bottom, and I will put comments in the margins on the assignments that are written, like the reflection paper. So I just got done this morning reading all of reflection paper from week 1, and you will notice I made a lot of comments about writing mechanics. This is a college level course, of course. But this is a college level course, and I expect college level writing. And there was a lot of writing mechanics issues there. Things like no punctuation, misspellings. Sometimes I'd read the sentence and I wasn't sure what was being said. A lot of sentence fragments where there wasn't a whole sentence there. I had a couple of instances where they were really long. One of the reflection paper entries was something like 320 something words long, and it was 2 sentences. And it was really difficult to understand. So I have been making comments about writing mechanics issues, and I'm also making comments about content. When you're writing these reflection papers, the goal you need to be focused on is, can I convey to the instructor that I understand these concepts? So it's not enough to take a word or two from the chapter and throw that into the essay and loosely tie it to an example, because that conveys that I know what the words are, but it doesn't say I understand the concepts. And I'm looking for understanding of concepts, and that you can take what you've learned and apply it and see how it has happened in the past for certain examples in your lives. So that's what I'm really looking at. And I tried to make a lot of comments in the, particularly in the margins, but also in the rubrics about that. So be sure to go back and look at that. I do try to provide a lot of feedback, and I think I may even switch and do some of those back as video responses instead of written responses. But I'll have to see, because I'm not sure how hard that's going to be to do yet. I've never done that. But I did want to mention that to go back and look, because you do have reflection paper this week, and you'll have a reflection paper in week 3 coming up. And please look at go back and reread them and make sure they make sense. Make sure that what you're trying to say comes out in what is written on the actual submission. And if you've got questions, shoot me an email. I'll be glad to answer it. So that's the other thing. If you do have any questions at all, shoot me an email. Grab me in virtual office hours, or virtual student hours, and I'll be glad to help. And looking forward to seeing the assignments from week 2. Since this is Friday, the things I haven't started grading yet. I won't do that until Sunday night. And I'm looking forward to seeing what's going on, though. Have a great week, and I'll see you later.